Today I'm presenting Chapter 6's Propaganda 2.0, in which Christian Fuchs discusses the propaganda model and utilizes Herman and Chomsky's commentary and findings based on the book The Manufacturing Consent, The Political Economy of Mass Media, which in the introduction is outlined to have been published nearly 30 years ago. So Fuchs begins his introduction basically outlining Herman and Chomsky's book and how that has become outdated, especially as we as a society have moved from print media to a cloud-based, internet-based, social media-based platform in which we ingest and actually receive our news from. However, what's important is the role of advertisement in social media. Noted that that's the primary source of income, and in some aspects will then have a impact on the shaping of the information that is actually provided by specific platform. What's the key takeaway in my purview is that the key aspect is that wealth and power shape inequalities, and what is considered newsworthy and what gets reported and what is heard and read and watched. In earlier chapters, we discussed fetishistic behaviors. And so basically, there are ideas that are coveted within certain aspects of ingestion. So in this regard, basically what Fuchs is insinuating is that what is actually shown on the news is palatable, right? It's not necessarily, originally it was thought that as, more social media opened up, that, news would become more decentralized, and that there would be less tight control over media entities. But since most of that is dictated by size, ownership, and profit, we see that the Propaganda 2.0 showcases that dominant social media platforms usually have concentrated ownership. So in that regard, the ideologies that we see, the propaganda that is passed on to us, are shaped by Google, which was co-founded by Larry Page and Saber Bin. They're all, Facebook is owned by Mark Zuckerberg, and the social media market is shown to be like a highly concentrated market of specific individuals, specific ideologies, and specific orientations. Basically, there are sides that utilize these platforms to their advantage. It's discussed in the 2016 election, how percentages fluctuated from different media outlets, whether it was TV, news, print, and what kind of whom basically control the algorithm of information that is unproportionately sent and ingested by individuals. So often, I guess in the best regard, is we think of ideologies of the internet as a form of public communication. However, the Propaganda 2.0 specifically indicates that it's more of a fetishistic instrument that controls the online communication. So ideas and discussions are swayed based on the algorithm, where many audiences can be reached at multiple times. So multiple messages can be sent by the same platform to specific individuals based on the data collected. And so it's a thing of confirmation bias in many aspects, where you have this bottleneck of information, and there leaves no room for outside thought, because you're constantly bombarded with consistent propaganda that basically fits the palatable, the appetite of the user. And so this is best pronounced in Fuch's page 84, the propaganda model today. And ideology on the internet is a phenomena of fascism, racism, right-wing extremism, nationalism, classism, sexism, anti-Semitism, etc. Given that right-wing ideology is flourishing in many societies, it also exceedingly present online and on social media. Ideology on the internet trends to make use of visual means and tabloidization. So it's more of like seeing is believing. So these kind of outlets further promote ideologies as well. Not only are they a form of feeding a new idea or a specific idea, but they do a good job of, revolving around specific algorithms. And basically, as this right-wing idea becomes more and more prevalent, we'll see disproportionate, because they're controlled locally, you see disproportionate advertisements for right-wing candidates or left-wing candidates. Fuchs discusses how the top-rated individuals, the top highest socially media profiles are basically Coca-Cola, Google, all of these powerhouses of industry that basically have a presence and are able to facilitate that. Shakira, Eminem. So again, going back to that fetishistic nature, we often idealize and promote things that are grandiose or enticing, that help promote and feed that dreamlike desire that we discussed in the earlier chapters. And then it has Bernie Sanders and Karl Marx, two people who fight for like humanitarianism, but like not less popular because like their ideologies aren't necessarily favorable to, in many ways, the alluding remarks by Fuchs are that, if they're not shown online and social media outlets don't promote them, it's because the algorithms don't want to promote them. So there was a discussion about making sure and, basically assessing whether what we see is what is actually true, because these type of information models have a causation and correlation effect in which they actually shape people's world, because we often get our form of information, our interpretation of the real world from these non-real world examples. So it's important to know that even though there's a lot of communication, a lot of connection in social media outlets and news outlets, Fuchs really discusses that overall, social media is a structure of propaganda in that is highly impacted by the economy and its political climate, whether it's going to control money or capital. You have how it controls politics, whether it influences right-wing or left-wing. It's whatever is more palatable, cultural, whatever is highly. So it's almost like, I think the best way to put this is that Propaganda 2.0 indicates that news media outlets and the like are sources of inception in that they shape and frame individuals' mindsets. However, these same media outlets that are controlled and monopolized are also shaped by the individuals who watch them, and that confirmation bias is created by these media outlets, but people police the confirmation bias by then continually subscribing to these outlets because the information is palatable to them. It would be extremely difficult to watch an outlet that you disagreed with as often. That would lead to ego death, but I don't think that necessarily was Fuchs' ending note. That's just my own interpretation. Either way, sorry for the very long video. I hope everyone enjoys this. Thanks so much.